I taught my bird to whistle like a referee. I can make a free throw when I'm down on one knee. I've been a fan of basketball since I was 5. Now I am a fan of HoopSpeak Live. Hilarious analysis, a mystifying trope. An angel with a cudgel breaking bubbles of soap. Like honeybees buzzing around a hive. Yeah, everybody buzzing about HoopSpeak Live.
Hey, welcome to HoopSpeak Live. I'm your host, Beckley Mason. No Ethan with us today, but we do have Zach Harper. And our guest today will be Devin Kharpertian of the Brooklyn game. We'll be breaking down the Nets and Darren Williams and all the funkiness that's going on over there. You can email us at hoopspeaklive@gmail.com, tweet us with the hashtag HoopSpeakLive, and of course, talk to us in the chat and submit questions here. Zach, big news since we were last on is that Rubio is back in action. People falling in love with those sneaky passes again. But how is the team doing, and how has he looked in the limited minutes?
Saturday night, first game back against the Mavericks, he was awesome. I mean, everything you wanted him to do, he energized them. They were down like 10 or 12 points when he came in. He immediately helps them erase that deficit. He's throwing passes all over the place. These crazy wrap-around, one-handed bounce passes. He goes through his legs, right by Elton Brand for Greg Steensma. He's playing defense. He knocked down a jumper. Badly missed on a couple of jumpers, but I mean, he was fantastic. He had 9 assists in his first game back in 18 minutes. Second game, he didn't really do anything. He had 4 assists, 3 turnovers, and looked really slow. He even said afterwards that it did not feel the way he felt Saturday night, and that he couldn't move how he wanted to move, and he was just very slow. The great thing about Rubio's game so far has been that he's willing to take shots. And one fun thing was the end of the game. He's pulling up and they decide to run this pick and roll for him at the end of the game. And there was like this storybook ending of if he hits a 3 here to win the game, like, the place is going to erupt. Like, the internet's going to melt. Everything good is going to happen. Target Center's going to crumble and enjoy. And he came up a little short on it. They had a couple of tip-in chances. But the fact that he's, like, not afraid to take shots, his jumper looks better. It's just his legs aren't really there yet. But I don't know. He might become a decent shooter at some point.
Well, stranger things have happened. Of course, Jason Kidd is like the classic example of someone who couldn't shoot forever and now is shooting like 50% from 3. It is wild. I mean, like, every time he goes to him, I just think it's automatic. All right, so 2 teams right now on double-digit game winning streaks. The Thunder and Clippers have both won over 10 games. The Clippers, of all teams, top 5 defensive efficiency rating and offensive efficiency rating, which really is a great sign going into this, if they can keep it up throughout the season. But the East is where I want to focus because there's some weird stuff happening. 2 really hot teams right now over the last week, the Raptors and the Orlando Magic. Let's start with the Magic. You digging this Jacques Vaughn team?
I like his coaching. I think that they're making a mistake by winning so many games. I just don't see the point. Like, just throw Andrew Nicholson out there for 45 minutes a night and Mo Harkless for 45 minutes a night and let them learn while losing. This is what I worried about coming in, is that they're just good enough to be around, a 35 to 40 win team. And that helps them with pride now, but most of these guys aren't going to be here in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and one of the guys who's really played well and kind of fits this mold of being a little bit too professional, caring a little bit too much, executing a little bit too sharply is Redick, who had a great game against your Timberwolves, 8 for 12, 18 points, 7 assists in like 28 minutes. Very precise. Chances that he is a Magic at the end of the year, a Magic on the Magic, is about 15%. I can't imagine that they're going to keep him and then pay him if they're going to have this mediocre team. What do you think about that? You think Redick is gone by the trade deadline?
I think it would be smart for them to trade him because you could trade him and probably a bad contract just to get an asset back, and people really want his shooting to stretch the floor. I definitely don't think he'll be a magician by the end of the year.
Yeah, you think of like a team that he signed with, like Chicago. They're a bit cash strapped right now with what they've done to their cap, but there are teams out there that could really, really use someone to race around screens, make open shots, and even provide a little bit of ball handling on the perimeter. It'll be really interesting to see if a team can make a move for him that is in kind of the quasi-contender realm, because he's the type of player that can come right in and help just about anybody. I wrote today about Calderon, who had 17 assists last night, and he's been getting big minutes while Lowry has been out. And he is a really interesting dude to watch. I think you've been on the Calderon train for a while as an offensive player, but he makes it look so simple, doesn't he?
It's really just basic basketball. Like, he doesn't do a lot of flashy stuff. It's just, all right, here's the pass here, here's the pass there, I'm going to take this jumper. Like, there's no like mystery to his game. Whatever the basic basketball play is going to be, he's going to do it. He's just a very good shooter. He doesn't have to do a whole lot.
Yeah, his passing is really one of the things I noticed when I was looking at the tape of his passing is, one, he's so aware of when guys are supposed to come open in the offense. Like, he's got such a great understanding of the actual sets they run. But when they do pick and rolls, it's like you said, I mean, he has this way of waiting for the defense to commit without waiting so long that he's missed his opportunity to throw that hook pass to the popping big. And he just has his eyes trained right on the weak side. And whether that's the big man who comes over to stop the roll, or it's the second big man, or it's the opposite wing, he just makes that read instantly. And, there's like maybe one-handed pass. There's nothing behind the back. There's nothing that sneaky. And, end of the game, 17 assists.
I wonder if that's a Spanish point guard thing. Like, that's what they teach, because Rubio is very I mean, he'll throw the flashy pass, but his patience on a pick and roll is, nearly flawless. It is a lot like Calderon's where they're waiting, but it's not I don't know what to do. It's, I'm going to let this guy move out of the way, and then here's the pass. Maybe we should go back and watch more Sergio Rodriguez tapes, see if it's all Spanish point guards.
Well, what's the Lul, or how do you say his name? There's the other guy who I like over there who hasn't come to the U.S. yet, and I think he's like got some nice game in the pick and roll too, doesn't he?
Yeah, he reminds me actually like kind of Ron Harper when he was on the Bulls, like that kind of a point guard. Like, he's a bigger point guard, and he's
cross-cultural comp.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant a white Ron Harper that I saw once.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but he reminds you of Ron Harper. Why?
Just like a bigger combo guard that can run the point, and like Ron Harper was kind of the same way, where he was very patient with passing, but could score a little bit because of his size. I think that we might see, like, not Los Angeles Clippers Ron Harper or Cleveland Cavaliers Ron Harper, but more that Chicago Bulls one, where it was just like a lot of patience and kind of knowing the angles.
Yeah. All right. So we're about 10 minutes into the show. It's time to bring on our guest, the one and only Devin Kharpertian, who is a lot of fun. Last time we had him on to talk about the Brooklyn Knight. That was in the heyday of the Brooklyn Nets when everything was going well. They were 11-5. There he is with his buddy Darren Williams. And Devin, what's going on with the Nets?
Well, where do you want me to start exactly? Well, first of all, one of the biggest things that happened was that Brook Lopez got hurt. And that's kind of when everything went from this has been very good so far, but kind of teetering on the edge of falling apart, to this is completely starting to fall apart. If you take out Lopez's injury, if you only take the times where he wasn't on the minutes restriction, they're like 1-2 in their last 10 games. But if you take the fact that Andre Blatch was starting for 6 of the games, and then nobody behind him was playing a real center position, they've been 2-8. So I'm doing well. I don't really know if the Nets are doing well. Hold on one second. This guy is not doing very well. Darren Williams. This guy's not doing so well. He has had a very, very rough week. Ironically, he's had a rough week in his best shooting week of the season. So I don't know. It's been very weird. It's just been kind of like this. It didn't exactly come out of nowhere because they've been struggling, but it's just kind of it's been as bad as you could imagine a so-called crisis to be, and then even worse.
So he made comments about Avery Johnson's system and he has taken ownership of his struggles, but he just got eviscerated today. I can't remember who, Dave D'Alessandro, I think is the...
He's the illest.
Yeah. What do you take out of all that?
Well, Dave is kind of good at that. That's kind of Dave. He'll write a column every 6 months, and it'll kill somebody. I think he was mostly on the mark about what he was saying. One of the things I thought he was a little off on was that he was blaming Darren for all this, but to some degree, the Nets have kind of built this culture where Darren Williams has no accountability. Avery doesn't call him out, Billy doesn't call him out, his teammates don't call him out. He's kind of built this bubble in the last 2 years of he's the franchise player, and they're just going to appease him in any sense that they can. But at this point, look, they signed him. You won. You have Darren Williams. When he's bad, tell him he's bad. I don't think that's not that crazy to do. He's not playing well right now. He's throwing his his coach under the bus, and his coach isn't saying anything to him. He's being very passive about it. He didn't, Darren has been terrible defensively this entire season. He's been even worse the last few games. He started off shooting terribly. He's blaming the offense for him missing wide open shots, and the team's not saying anything about it. Look, I know at some point you want to defend your star player. You want to, you don't want to throw him under the bus too. But there's nothing wrong with, criticizing a guy for not doing well when he's, going out of the media and saying, the system that worked better for me was the one that got me to force a coach into retirement. There's a disconnect there that's not really good for the Nets right now.
But do you think Darren has a point that the system is not optimal for the pieces that they have, or at least for him? And are those two different things? Is ultimately the system that's best for the Nets not going to be the one that's best for Williams?
Well, I think one of the weird things about it is, Joe Johnson was talking about this yesterday, that the Nets, their system is not an ISO-heavy system. They just happen to fall in getting lazy and doing a lot of ISO-heavy stuff in the second half. And you can see the difference. They shoot 6% better in the first half of the second half. Their assists cut down by, I think it's like 5 per 48 minutes or something like that. They turn the ball over more. They shoot much worse. And it's because they're not running anything. If you see them in the first and second quarter of games, they go out early. They either go to Lopez, they go do those down screen UCLA sets that Beckley, you and I have talked about before, that are really, really interesting and kind of work out well for them. And then the second quarter, they go more into this their bench mob thing, which is kind of Joe leading the way, and they throw together a lot of the same offense. But then in the second half, they get lazy, they get complacent, they just go into this ball hawking mode where Darren gets the ball and nobody moves. And it's just let Darren run around for 15 seconds. We'll stand in the corner and hope somebody helps off of them, and then nothing happens, and they lose leads. They've lost. I think it's 6 halftime leads or 8 halftime leads. They've lost 8 or 10 double-digit leads, and it's because they're not running anything in the second half. So the system, I think, is fine. I think the offensive system, when they run it, is fine. But when they have when they're not running anything, they're not going to win basketball games, and that's what's been going on more in the last 10 games than anything else, as far as the offensive end anyway. Zach, I can't hear you if you're saying something.
I muted myself. Here we go. I feel like they have a weapon that they utilize for scoring, but they don't use with Brook Lopez in that they dump the ball into him and then he just does whatever. But I mean, you could run cuts off of him. You could run people around him and he could dump the ball off, kind of like that KG move where a guy will cut through right by him and then he just dumps it in. I just feel like they could do so much more with Brook Lopez because I don't think he's a guy that just can't pass a ball or drop it off.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think they don't use him well enough. I think there's one of the big things for me about Lopez is they run a lot of ISO-ish sets with him in the post, but once they give it to him in the post, they're gone. And it's like, all right, well, Brooke, let's see if you can score on Tyson Chandler this play. All right, Brooke, let's see if you can, get your rip move working this play. But once the ball gets to him again, people are watching. They're not doing anything. There's no extra movement. It's like the way I said it, I think last night was that the Nets tend to have like two options on offense, and they go through a play, and when it doesn't work, they just dump it off to one of their ISO guys, which is Joe, Darren, or Brooke. And they don't really do anything with Brooke after that other than just like, okay, let's see if you can score. And to me, one of the most effective things the Nets have done is a pick and roll with Darren and Brooke. Last night, they ran it like only 3 times, and every time it was a wide open layup for Brooke Lopez. Like, it's not that complicated. But for some reason, the Nets keep, again, going in the second half to not doing anything with the ball other than dumping it off to somebody who they think can score and seeing if he can beat them one-on-one. And they might be able to beat guys, but they're not scoring on them. And there's a big difference there.
Yeah, and those Brooke Lopez post-ups where he gets it 18 feet from the basket and turns and faces are just like the slowest train wreck imaginable. It's not like the part of the wreck where there's the collision. It's the part where like everything stopped and then like the train just sort of falls on its side off of the track. Like it is so bad, and I hate when they do it like against Tyson Chandler. Great defender, quick, like long, and they throw it to him and they're like, all right, good luck, buddy. And it's just terrible looking. I wanted to ask though about Marshawn Brooks. Does he still play for the Nets? And if so, is he any good?
I'll have to check with my sources on that one. Not sure. No, I mean he's been buried. I mean the thing is like he's been so buried that now when he plays, he's way off his game. And like he'll drive to the basket and he'll jump in midair and he'll still have no idea what he's doing with the ball. So he's had a couple of moments this year where he's driving the lane. It looks like something interesting is going to happen, and he throws the ball out of bounds because he has no idea what he's doing. So I don't know. For me, it's like I know he's talented. He's absolutely like a talented basketball player. You saw that last season, even on the terrible Nets they were last year. But to some degree, like Avery has taken him so far out of this rotation, and to some degree, it's deserved because he's a terrible defensive player. And the team is way worse defensively with him on the court. But, there's certainly like a growing stretch that they could, like he could have played him those struggle minutes and he figured out the defense. And he can provide that kind of spark. Now, the only issue with that is that he doesn't really fit in with the Nets' offensive weapons. Like he kind of replicates what Darren and Joe do to a much lesser degree. And when you have those two guys in, you'd rather have a guy like Gerald who can defend the team's best perimeter player. So the only time you can really use them is with the bench, but then Joe's leading the bench. So it's like a kind of like a lesser replicate of the same skill set. So it's just kind of hard for him to find a rhythm right now because Avery doesn't have really a spot he can put him in the rotation in, and he's just not performing well enough to really deserve one.
Which power forward should be playing more with Brooke Lopez? Is it Reggie Evans? Is it Chris Humphries? Is it Andre Blatch?
By the way, when you made the train metaphor, I was thinking Andre Blatch the whole time. when Andre faces up and he stares at the basket and you know that no one else is touching the ball in that possession, that is a train wreck. It's terrifying. But I think I don't know.
You have the chance of like a triple pump fake, like something wild happening with. With Brooke, it's just not going to happen. It's going to be one of those things where he like awkwardly leans into the guy and is like, whoa, and then looks at the ref and then doesn't run back on defense.
He tried that rip move from like 25 feet out last night, and the ref I think he shook his head. I think he was just like, I'm not calling that. But to answer your question, Zach, the way Chris Humphries is playing right now, I don't know. And that's terrifying because Reggie Evans has made 0 field goals in the last 4 games, and Chris Humphries maybe should come off the bench in favor of. You know what I mean? Like Reggie's been great. I love Reggie off the bench because he's kind of like the anchor of that defensive bench mob. But Chris is, I think, better suited for the bench at this point too. The way he's been playing, he's completely out of the offense. He deserved his trip to the bench, frankly. He had a couple of really nice defensive moments, in the first going of the season. I really thought he was covering Brooke a lot for a lot of Brooke's defensive mistakes. But lately, he's just kind of fallen off the wagon. And the big question I think I get a lot from a lot of Nets fans now about the team is, are they going to upgrade a power forward? And I don't know. Like, I don't think that there's really any significant option for an upgrade out there at this moment. But at this point, it's definitely the weak link in the starting 5.
We got a question from the audience here from San Vicini. guessing. Devin, do you remember when Mirza Teletovic was a thing this offseason? And if you do, can you explain why he no longer exists?
I don't think he's made a shot this side of the border. Like, it's really weird. Like, this guy, he was supposed to be the EuroLeague. He's the EuroLeague leading scorer last year, and he's shooting. I don't know the number offhand. It's like 32%. He's just terrible. Like, he doesn't look like he comes in games and he'll shoot in like 7 seconds and it'll never go. So I mean, when you have a power forward who's a stretch four and he can't shoot, like, you can't play him. You know, like you can't put him on the you can't put him on the floor pretending he's going to be Ryan Anderson if he's not. Like he's just not playing well, and it's really frustrating because it's like, did they get the wrong Mirza Teletovic? Is there like a real shooter in Europe named Mirza Teletovic that they were supposed to sign, but they like got a carpenter by accident and he happened to be tall and decided he could fool the Nets into doing it? Like, that's all I could really think. Like, because this is not the EuroLeague's leading scorer. It's just not that guy. There's no way.
So he's shooting, I just looked it up when you said that, he's shooting 12 3-pointers per 36 minutes. When
Fired.
he's on the court. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Devin, I want to give you a chance to just wax poetically about Gerald Wallace. You love this guy.
Gerald's been great. Gerald's been so great. Like, he really has. I mean, look, here's the thing. Like, Gerald was, okay, to be fair, Gerald was not very good last night. But, I mean, Carmelo Anthony is, I mean, I don't know what's happened to him. He's been fantastic in a way that he never has been. But Gerald provides a certain energy that no one else on the Nets has. Like, Joe is kind of like a methodical, slow isolation scorer. Darren has been out of it all season. Brooke couldn't run a mile in a day, and the power forward position is screwed up. But Gerald is just a kinetic force of energy. He's always somewhere doing something. And sometimes that's not good. Sometimes he's been on pump fakes more than Blatch has, which is like insane to me. But he's played great, and he's one of those things where you kind of like you're much more comfortable with him on the floor than anyone else the Nets would throw at small forward. Whether it's Joe, whether it's Josh Childress, who has looked like a shell of his former self, whether it's any other lineup you can do. Like, Gerald has just kind of been this weird rock when he's been playing, and it's great.
Yeah,
I love watching him play.
Yeah, Childress is like the king of the Trillionaires Club for the Nets. He'll come in and play actually 8 minutes without recording one statistic. So it'll be 8 0 0 0 0 0. I wanted to ask, what did you think when Brooklyn went small and would have Gerald Wallace at the 4, bump up Johnson to the 3? It seemed like it could be a dynamic lineup, but it never seemed to work out. Why do you think that is? Or did it work and I just didn't see that? It's
worked sometimes. I think it's a good lineup. I think they should use it more often, especially because Humphries and Evans have had their struggles. It's kind of weird because, like, when you have it with Lopez already isn't the best defender or rebounder, and then Wallace is like a good rebounder for a small forward, but at the power forward, he's more just kind of like a dynamic 4. And then Joe and Darren are not good rebounders than anyone else have. So that's one of the struggles there. You can kind of play it a little bit with Humphries or Evans, depending on the lineup, but then you're giving up a lot of size to anybody who can play the 5, because neither Hump nor Evans has been really good at the 5 this year. So I think it can work. It's just a matter of it's got to be against the right lineup, and you've got to have the right, you've got to have a specific system in place for that lineup that I don't think the Nets really have right now. So, I mean, maybe sometime later in the season it'll be more successful.
Interesting. All right, last question before we let you go. This has been awesome. From Andrew, why is the Oculus?
How dare you? Did you really just question the coolest thing about the Barclays Center? The Oculus is awesome. I don't know. There's nothing like the Oculus. I have one other thing I want to say to you guys before I go, because we talked about the Brooklynite last time, and I realized there's one crucial element of the Brooklynite that I forgot to mention, and you may know about this. The Brooklynite is a comic book that they gave out on the first night of the Barclays Center, Nets, Raptors, whatever. And it's weird. It's terrible. But the thing is, Chris Humphries is nowhere to be found in this comic book. And in his place in the locker room, the Nets, the power forward for the Nets is Amari Stoudemire. There's just like a comedy of errors that just keeps rolling out with this, and they haven't let it go. It's still, I mean, the Brooklynite's still around. But apparently the Nets power forward is Amari Stoudemire. Just want to let you guys know.
I mean, why not? That's. I mean, I get like Amari maybe drops by to say hi, but like leaving Humphries out.
They're like in the locker room, like staring down Avery, and it's just like Wallace and Amari, and I think Lopez is next to him. Like it's just like it's so weird. It makes no sense. And Humphries is nowhere to be found.
Amazing. Do you have a copy of that?
Yeah, I have it somewhere. I don't have it here. I can send you stuff for it later. I'll send it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll keep reading you over at the Brooklyn game.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Take it easy, Dev. All right, that was the one and only Words on Twitter, spelled UUORDS. It's a diphthong. Get with it. Okay, we got one audience question here we want to bring on from a friend of the show, Kirk Henderson. Should Dallas tank? I'm assuming, reasonably, that they might lose every game between now and January 1st. They would be 12-19. Eventually, Dirk will come back, and they'll probably, possibly have a winning record after Dirk returns, which would give them something like the 17th pick. What do you think, Zach? You've been in some of these situations with the Wolves.
Oh, I've been in a lot. I feel like I know this subject really well. I say you wait and see what Dirk has, and if he's not, if he's just kind of embarrassing himself because the knee is bad and he needs months to recover, I think you kind of shut him down and just take your lumps and hope to rebuild with free agency in the draft. But I don't think it's an automatic, they got to tank now. They could still make a serious playoff or run to get to the playoffs.
Right, and I assume they would get just demolished should they arrive at the playoffs. But it is interesting to wonder, they're going to have some free agent space this offseason. They're going to be able to sign someone big. Is that person, you almost think about it like, what's going to make the Mavericks most enticing in the offseason for the next round of players? I would think having Dirk show that he's playing well would be good.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, Dallas can play some pretty good basketball. They're not like aesthetically they can be enjoyable to watch even when they're not playing and winning a lot. So, to me as a fan of Carlisle, I just kind of don't like the idea of them doing it. But knowing Cuban and how sharp their front office is, it also wouldn't surprise me if OJ Mayo, he won't because he's in a contract year, but some of these other guys, have like minor shoulder injuries or something and can't play for the rest of the year. All right, Zach, I know you got to go. Dagger Smash noted. Let's hop to it, and then we'll get out of here. Zach, what is your dagger?
Last night, I have been physically therapizing my ankle. I've got floating stuff in the ankle. It's been catching the joint. I've been in physical therapy. The results are fantastic. My ankle is moving so much better. I played basketball last night in a rec league. We're down the last few seconds of the game. Kind of a fast break opportunity. Teammate of mine kicks it to me in the corner with time running down. Well, I'm not in the corner. I'm on the left wing. Time running down. Defenders running at me. I bury the three-pointer. Just as clutch as you can get, so to cut the final deficit to 14 from 17. That's my dagger.
Well, good job, and big shots. Big shot Harper. All right, we're going to bring on the man, Peepin' James, with his Paul McCartney hair. What do you got, buddy?
My smash is a locker room story. Linus Kleza hates doing interviews, completely hates it, gives the most boring answers ever. And he smashed the Raptors television broadcast on Sunday. Before the game in the locker room, Matt Devlin, the Raptors announcer, rushes into the locker room looking really frazzled. Where's Linus? Where's Linus? I can't find him. And then he immediately left again when Linus was in the back and nowhere to be found. Raptors PR guy comes in there looking for him as well. Nope, nothing. He walks out, then Linus emerges from the back and sits there getting ready and kind of smirking. And we tell him, a couple of reporters tell him they're looking for you. Devlin's looking for you. The PR guy's looking for you. He's like, they can keep looking. And we kind of laugh at that, and then he just looks up and delivers in like the driest way possible. They're not looking for me. They're looking for Jeremy Lin. And then he just walks right out of the locker room, doesn't care at all.
All right, so Linus Queza, a dynamic person on and off the court. My noted has to do with players getting hit in the head and then nothing happening in terms of trainers checking them out. Tim Duncan in the game against the Thunder basically looked like he was out on his feet for like 2 possessions, was never looked at by trainers during the game. You know, people don't get concussions all the time in basketball. It's not football or hockey, but they do get dazed. I mean, we see it every game, these shots, not every game, but close, every night where there's a lot of games, shots to the head. I'm curious if fans are noticing this and if they think it's an issue. You can email HoopSpeak Live about it or me at becklym@gmail. And let me know if you've been noticing players getting whacked in the noggin. All right, it's been a great show. Thanks for Devin for coming by. And I think it is time for Roger Bain to take us out. Thanks, guys.
I taught my bird to whistle like a referee. I can make a free throw when I'm down on one knee. I've been a fan of basketball since I was 5. Now I am a fan of HoopSpeak Live. Hilarious analysis of mystifying trope. An angel with a cudgel breaking bubbles of soap. Like honey